Hello and welcome. This is Sage, your professor, and I am teaching the cultivation class through the Cannabis Education Center at Holyoke Community College. Today we are going to look at the cannabis harvest. This is a two-part video presentation, and this is part one. So when we talk about the cannabis harvest, we have to consider the growing cycle of the plant. So we have a living organism here, and for most of its life, it is in the vegetative stage. That means that the plant is gaining height, it's getting taller, the stem is getting wider, roots are elongating, and leaves are produced and grow. So for several weeks to months, you will have your plants in the vegetative stage. Then, when sunlight or artificial light triggers them, they will become reproductive and go into the reproductive stage. And this means that buds will form, and that's the flowers. The flowers will start to form. So once you notice this, it's important to keep track of when you notice the flowers. That can help us in timing the harvest. So once you start to notice at the very tips of your plants some swelling, more trichome formation, you will want to take note of that. Harvest, you're going to harvest mature flowers, and the maturity will vary depending on the type of cannabis you're growing. Indica strains generally take about 6 to 8 weeks to mature after they begin flowering. Sativa strains, usually a little bit longer, 10 to 12 weeks after they begin flowering, they are mature. Sometimes sativa can last up to 24 weeks. You do have a little bit of leniency here as to when exactly you can harvest, but you do want to get mature flowers because they will have the proper amount of cannabinoids in your harvest. If you harvest too early, you won't have the proper cannabinoids. They will be kind of weak. And if you wait too long, you can actually come into problems with pests. So to really look at your cannabis and how it is at harvest time, it's important to look at the trichomes. Trichomes are everything. You can time your harvest based on when they started flowering, when your plant started flowering, but the best way to do it is by close examination of trichomes. And these are little structures on the leaves and on the buds. This picture here is showing trichomes in a very early stage on a cannabis leaf. And so you can see some spikes here. That is a very young trichome. And then you see some with bulbs. Right here in the corner of this picture is one that's almost in focus there. That is a slightly more mature trichome, but however, it's not what we want to see when it's harvest time. You can see the same thing over here, some bulbs starting to form at the ends of the trichomes, but also a lot of spikes. The trichomes are where the cannabinoids are produced, so we want to make sure that those are good and ready before we harvest. This is another picture of trichomes on pistils, so flower parts of the plant. These are some pistils. The pistils are starting to turn yellow at the ends, and that was one reason why I picked these off of my plants, because I noticed some yellowing and I wanted to check the trichomes. However, what I see here in our trichomes, right in here, especially, not so much here, but down here along the leaf, the trichomes have nice bulbs to them, but they're starting to get a milky color. So they're not maturing quite yet. I do see a little bit of an orangey color here, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for an amber color. There's another one up here. Amber color on those trichomes. That tells us that they are mature. Up here on this pistil part, we can see some more of the very early trichomes, kind of pointy, some bulbs starting to form at the ends of them. So this is what we're looking for with mature flowers. These trichomes have bulbs, and many of them have started to turn that orange amber color. What you're looking for is about 40 to 70% of the trichomes on the bud and surrounding plant tissue turning that color. So it's an estimate based on what you see. Kind of around half of the trichomes in this picture are starting to mature. They're at that amber color. The rest are kind of milky, shown here and here. So what you can do is really look at this, count, and come up with that percentage. Count the total number of trichomes, count the number that are amber, take that amber number, divide it by the total to get the percent. That's something we covered over in the math section. And we looked at that math for inventory and for seed viability, but you can also do it for trichomes. Use percents. This is a handy chart that was found on a website, growweedeasy.com, and this is a good website to look for important information on growing cannabis. And here we can see different pictures of trichomes, clear and cloudy, developing the amber color of maturity. So there are lots of resources online to help you with this. And so let's get into our tools for harvesting. We will need a magnifier's lens or a jeweler's loupe or a microscope to check the trichomes. So that's the first thing that we'll need even before we do any cutting of our plants. You need to check those trichomes and look for that 40 to 70% amber color. A jeweler's loupe is like a small magnifying glass. You can use a powerful magnifying lens if you have one, and a microscope is very helpful if you have access to that. So these can all be purchased online to check for trichome color. For your harvest, you should also have latex gloves. This keeps the resin off your skin. Resin is just very sticky and it's hard to remove from your skin. So soap doesn't even do a very good job of getting it off. Sometimes you'll need some harsher chemicals to get it off, even rubbing alcohol, or some more abrasive soaps and cleaners. So latex gloves really help with that by keeping all that resin off your fingers. You might think that it'll be fun, but it's not. Coconut oil and olive oil can also be helpful for this. If you don't have latex gloves, or nitrile gloves are an alternative for those with latex allergies. Coconut oil or olive oil rubbed on your hands can keep the resin from sticking to your skin. So that's also very helpful and easy to do. You'll need good scissors or garden shears, and there are a couple variations on this. I'll show you one in a minute. A tray is helpful for when you're doing your trimming, and you'll also need twine to hang dried branches and a structure to hang those branches onto. So what does it look like? This is what a jeweler's loupe looks like. It's a foldable magnifying lens. You can put it on a little lanyard around your neck and use it to look for trichome coloration. Latex nitrile gloves. They usually come in a variety of sizes, so you can find what size works for you. We have our shears here. This is the kind that I like. These have a nice narrow point to them. They're about 6 inches long, and they have a big opening for your hands. I personally have small hands, and these openings I can fit my whole hand into. But when you're also wearing gloves, having a nice opening is helpful. Okay, you can also use garden clippers to clip down your big plant. These are the types of shears that are really good for trimming small branches and doing the careful work of trim around the bud. This is one tray. I thought it was pretty cool for your trimming. You can use anything though. And some twine to hang. And this is a hanging rack. Now, if you're a home grower, things will look a little bit different. This is a type of rack that I've seen at grow facilities. So it has a few tiers to it where you can hang your branches. And just a note about tools. Um, if you're working in a cannabis grow facility, you may be provided with the tools that they have there. Hopefully, with some experience, you'll be able to figure out what works best for you. A lot of home growers can use what's handy for them. So any scissors can be used for trimming, but remember they do get sticky from the resin, just as your fingers would. So rubbing alcohol is a really good solvent to use on sticky shears and sticky scissors. Just a little rubbing alcohol on a cotton ball, rubbing that on your scissors can clean them up pretty well. So a cookie sheet can also be used for a tray. You can use kind of anything as a tray, even a table if you're not too particular. This is the end of part 1 for our harvest lecture. Stay tuned for part 2. I'm going to start off right here in part 2.